The thesis statement is an essential part of an essay introduction, and it is very important that you know where to put it and how to write it. Getting it wrong could very likely reduce your IELTS score, as it could affect the coherency of your essay, and if it's an opinion essay, it may mean that your opinion is not clear. So they are a crucial part of writing an introduction. So what is a thesis statement? Very basically, it tells the person reading your essay what will be in it. It may also give your opinion if the question asks you for this. It's the last sentence of your introduction. Don't get it mixed up with the topic of your essay. This is usually at the beginning of your introduction. So how do you write a thesis statement? In order to make it effective, you must have first identified the task of the essay. The task is what you have to do and is usually at the end of the rubric. For example, look at this IELTS essay question or rubric. So as global trade increases, many goods, including those we use on a daily basis, are produced in other countries and transported long distances. Do the benefits of this trend outweigh the drawbacks? So what you have to do, the task, is explain whether you think overall an increase in the production of goods in other countries and their subsequent transportation over long distances is more advantageous or disadvantageous. So the task is always the last bit in the rubric. So your essay is obviously going to be discussing the advantages and disadvantages of this issue, and this is what needs to be made clear in your thesis statement. It's also an opinion essay in this case, as it's asking you to make a decision on whether you think there are more advantages or disadvantages, so you need to make this clear as well in your thesis statement. So here's an example introduction with the thesis in red and bold. So you can see the first part of the introduction gives some facts about the topic. Due to the increase in global trade, many of the goods that we consume every day are made in a different country and then transported over a long distance in order to reach us. In my opinion, this trend has more disadvantages than advantages. So you would then go on to write about the advantages and disadvantages of global trade, focusing more on the disadvantages as you think there are more of these. So you can see that's a clear thesis statement saying what's in the essay and gives an opinion. We'll now look at how thesis statements can vary with different question types. However, you should not try to learn set phrases or sentences to fit in certain essays, as the examiner will most probably notice this. But you can get a general framework. So there are some broad types of essay question that are common to see in IELTS, but they can all vary slightly. The golden rule is to always analyse the question very carefully. Never rush this, as you may not fully answer the question. So you need to work out what you have to do with each question. So these are some common essay types in IELTS. You can get agree, disagree type questions, discuss two opinions, ask about causes and perhaps effects, problems and solutions, advantages and disadvantages. Though there are other types that don't fit these patterns as well that you need to be aware of. So let's firstly talk about writing about two opinions. So some questions specifically ask you to discuss two opinions and to give your opinion. Here's an example. Some people think that young children should be allowed to do paid work, while others think that this should be illegal. Discuss both opinions and give your opinion. There are various ways you could choose to write an introduction and thesis for this, so we'll go through some of these. Here's a first example. So you could begin by paraphrasing the two opinions, then stating in the thesis statement what you'll do. So for example, some people believe that it's acceptable for young children to undertake jobs they are paid for, whereas others believe that this is wrong and should be illegal. So the question has been paraphrased. And then the thesis. This essay will discuss both sides of the issue. This is quite simplistic, but it makes it very clear what you're going to do. You will obviously need to give your opinion as well, because the essay question says discuss both opinions and give your opinion. But stating this in the thesis, for example, this essay will discuss both sides of the issue and then give my opinion, sounds a bit awkward, so it's better without it. So let's look at another example. So another way is by having a sentence to introduce a topic first and then paraphrasing the two opinions to make them into your thesis. So we have some facts about the topic. At present, more and more young children are becoming involved in paid work. And then the thesis, which is a paraphrasing of the two different opinions. Whilst some people are of the opinion that this is an entirely acceptable practice, others believe that this is completely wrong and should be made illegal. So this makes it clear that this is what you'll be discussing in your essay. So this is fine, because it will match your essay. So you go on to discuss the first opinion and then the second one. Let's look at another example. So you could modify this slightly to include your opinion, because remember you have to give your opinion as well. So you could make it clear that of the two opinions that have been given in the question, one of them is going to be your opinion as well. So here, whilst some people are of the opinion that this is an entirely acceptable practice, I believe that this is completely wrong and should be made illegal. So as long as you go on to discuss both sides of the argument, this is fine. This is quite a good way to do it, because then you're just having two body paragraphs, and the part where it says give your opinion, you're combining that with the second one. Let's look at agreeing or disagreeing type essays, so thesis, IELTS thesis statements for these. Let's look at the question. Currently there is a trend towards the use of alternative forms of medicine. However, at best these methods are ineffective, and at worst they may be dangerous. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? So for this type of question, you need to state what your opinion is in the thesis statement. Although you could feasibly put your opinion in the conclusion, I personally think it's better to do it first so it's clear to someone reading the essay what your opinion is up front, so they don't get confused when they read it. It's not wrong though to put it in the conclusion. This is your choice. So your thesis statement here will depend on whether you agree, disagree or partly agree. So here are some examples of each. This is a thesis statement that agrees with the opinion. So alternative medicine is not new. It is accepted that it predates conventional medicine and is still used by many people all over the world. So you start with some general facts about the topic and no opinion, and then go on to the thesis. However, I strongly believe that this form of medicine does not work and is possibly a danger to those using it. Let's look at one that disagrees with the opinion. So we've got the same facts at the beginning, but then we have I am unconvinced that it is dangerous and feel that both alternative and conventional medicine can be useful. So in this case, the writer thinks that both can be used together. Or one that partly agrees with the opinion. I mean, the previous one could be seen to partly agree with it as well. But let's look at this. So we've got the same facts again, but then it says, I agree that for certain conditions this type of medicine is ineffective and could be dangerous, but for some illnesses it is a good alternative choice. So you can choose what your opinion is when you place it into your thesis statement. So these examples illustrate why it's important to analyse the question carefully and brainstorm your ideas first, so you have a clear idea of what you will be writing and what your opinion is. Let's look at some other essay types. So some may not ask you for your opinion specifically, but they may ask you to discuss, for example, problems and solutions, causes and effects, advantages and disadvantages. If you're asked to do this, then you should just clearly state that you will be discussing these two things in your essay. So let's look at some examples. This is a problems and solutions essay. So overpopulation of urban areas has led to numerous problems. Identify one or two serious ones and suggest ways that governments and individuals can tackle these problems. So again, you can see the thesis in bold. So we've got some facts about the topic first. Many countries of the world are currently experiencing problems caused by rapidly growing populations in urban areas. then it simply states that there are problems and solutions. It is critical to understand what these issues are and how both governments and individuals can overcome them. So it's clear the essay will be discussing what the issues are and what can be done about them. Let's look at one that might ask for causes and effects. So the percentage of overweight children in Western society has increased by almost 20% in the last 10 years. To discuss the causes and effects of this disturbing trend. So again, some facts about the topic taken from the question. Over the last 10 years, Western societies have seen close to a 20% rise in the number of children who are overweight. It is important to understand not only why this is happening, but also the consequences of this worrying trend. So again, we see it's setting out that you're going to be talking about the causes and the effects. Okay, and this is an advantages and disadvantages essay. So in order to solve traffic problems, governments should tax private car owners heavily and use the money to improve public transportation. What are the advantages and disadvantages of such a solution? So we can see traffic congestion in many cities around the world is severe. One possible solution to this problem is to impose heavy taxes on car drivers and use this money to make public transport better. These measures would have both benefits and drawbacks. So it's one sentence clearly stating you'll talk about the advantages and disadvantages. Okay, I hope you found this lesson useful. You can go to the website, a link is below, and check out our top-selling IELTS Made Easy step-by-step guide to writing a task 2, which is full of top tips and strategies for getting a high score for when you write your essay for general training or academic. Thank you.